what's up? Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good?
So let me ask you about Ethereum, because you made a video a couple weeks ago about the 2.0 update. And Ethereum's a currency that is down 60% over the last 6 months. It's currently at almost $1,300. So but just in layman terms, how is that merger or update going to impact Ethereum cryptocurrency, and what's the long-term outlook on Ethereum?
I believe that Ethereum 2.0, I heard a hot take about this. It's taking too long, right? Their plan to complete it is, I think it's like a 6 to 10 year plan to completely complete, Ethereum 2.0. And the idea is to make it more robust, right? So that it can compete with things like Visa, right? The transactions per second and how it can actually be utilized. I think that Ethereum needs to be way more competitive, right? I think that Ethereum really needs to, Vitalik, I don't think is good enough. He's like, fundamentally, he's great for Ethereum, right? But I think visually, brand wise, I don't think he is. Like if Elon Musk was at the head of Ethereum, right?
Yeah, Vitalik is like the Zuckerberg of crypto.
Yeah, he's not a likable person. He's not unlikable. Yeah. He just has no character traits that are like that are a reason to invest in it. So you looking at Ethereum, I think Ethereum is really being based on complete fundamentals right now, right? So people are like, okay, whatever it does and how it grows, I'm going to invest in Ethereum. Ethereum is not right now in this phase where people invest in it because it's sexy and things of that nature. So I think that that's not good for it, because then once you start grading a cryptocurrency like Ethereum completely on what it does next, what's the value, right? Then you're going to get a true value Ethereum, right? But what you want in that case is something that goes to skyrocket, right? You don't want people to react realistically. You want them to react based on vision and their imagination, right? And fear of missing out on what the next biggest thing in the world is going to be. Now, I think that Ethereum's ecosystem is solid, right? Because they have all of these side chains and projects that's being built on it. And there's a possibility that some of these projects like Polygon can actually take over, because I feel like they're being more innovative, right? It feels younger, and it feels like they're really listening to the people, where Ethereum has to be like this grandfather that sets these stern rules. The other children from Ethereum get to go and play and create innovative and more sexy things.
High level conversation. So we talked about crypto. Obviously, we talked about AI. I want to talk about VR though, right? Because that's something that we actually experienced with you when we were doing the Microsoft product. Obviously, we know Google has something. Apple potentially at some point in the next maybe 16 months will have a wearable. The new Oculus just came out from Meta. I want to know about your thoughts on the space of wearables and where it's going and how it's going to impact the future.
I think it's going to take some time for wearables to really catch on. Number one, I don't think people have money. I think right now, number one, with the Oculus, I think it's a good product, but I don't think it's going to be hot enough for people to buy, right? Because the product is probably going to be the best one that they came out with, and this is probably the whole thing. But I don't think that the trend is going to be hot, and Meta is hot enough right now for people to just start buying it and buying it. Now you got holiday season, which I still think is going to be a very slow holiday season. So it's not going to be like previous years. And all they did was take the design of Microsoft HoloLens and they recreated it. The problem with Facebook is they're not innovating nothing. They're not innovating nothing, right? Facebook is a software company. They're trying to compete with like Microsoft and Apple. And Microsoft and Apple are already hardware. And so they're trying to get into hardware space, and they're trying to get into new spaces that other companies already have a mastery on, right? If Apple wanted to jump in this space tomorrow with glasses, it will outpace and outsell anything that Meta could ever put out, right? That's just the fact.
April.
Brand-wise, quote-wise, and their ability to create hardware. I think I told, who was this? Somebody I was talking to. Was that you, Master Investor? I was talking about the fact that if Meta had Apple creating this hardware, they'd be solid. You understand me?
Yeah.
That is probably the dream marriage for them. But Apple don't seem like they give a damn about marriage.
Yeah, and Tim Cook and Zuckerberg are having some weird issues.
It looked like something going on. So,
And also Elon has an
Zuckerberg
issue with.
is to quit before this thing fully rolls out and this war continues to play out.
Yeah, I think the new Oculus will be amazing. From what I heard about it, the first version was pretty solid. But you're right, they did remix a little bit of the HoloLens. I do think they will create credibility for Apple to come in and take over that market. But I do think they need a facelift for sure.
And shout out to Idris Sandu, because he got his hardware where he brings blockchain to life to where it's called wearables, right? So he implants the blockchain chips inside of the clothing. It connects to that particular chip. So you are activated by putting your phone next to it. And then anytime somebody tap it, right, it records that data. So like, let's say if LeBron James, let's say if I got him in a crown, LeBron James taps my crown, that's going to be recorded. But now if I transfer ownership over to LeBron James, or he owned it at some point in time, that will be recorded as well. Or if I want to airdrop everybody who owns this particular crown content or a high level conversation, or let's say just airdrop them some tokens, only those people will receive it. So now what it's doing is you're looking at physical items with a different level of value, right? And I think what he's done is brilliant. So I feel like the hardware space, number one, is necessary for people to completely get blockchain so it becomes practical. I think that the hardest thing about blockchain and cryptocurrency is the names, the technical names, because people don't understand all that shit, right? The average only 32% of America got a bachelor degree, right? 80-something% actually graduate from high school. So you have these high level mathematical terms, right, that are disrespectful to the current intelligence of our population.
Disrespectful to the current intelligence of our population. So you said 80% of people graduate from high school. So 20%.
Yeah, I think it's around 88% and 32% got a bachelor degree.
That's interesting. We have lost Ian. Well, while he's figuring out his Wi-Fi situation, let's talk about this. DAOs. This is something that, I know you are very enthusiastic about. Are you still enthusiastic about DAOs? And talk to the people about DAOs if they're not familiar with a DAO and why a DAO is important.
DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. When I first heard about NFTs, I love the concept because I just thought about all the things you can do with it. DAOs are another one of those things. I think, I talked to a master investor, Ian Dunlap, about this as well. I think it's one of those things as well. It's so valuable. The space is growing. So right now, the whole fear is attack. The SEC is stunting innovation. And they're doing it because I was watching a show called about Spotify yesterday, right? And this will remind me of what we're going through right now. Spotify in the music industry, or the music industry was fighting piracy, right? You had a whole court movement of piracy coming on where they were trying to make music free, right? So, you had your Piracy Bay and LimeWires back in the day where everything was downloadable. And during that particular time, you get to see the inner workings of how the music industry was working directly with the feds. They working with, right, the legal teams that's prosecuting these people because, it's in their best interest to spend every single dollar to crush every single new industry if they don't control it. Old industries don't want to change, right? And this is what we really seeing when you see an SEC and you seeing these people go after it. That's big money from these corporations. The SEC not just sitting in the silo and saying, man, we hate this innovation. No, these companies with billions of dollars are saying, what y'all gonna do about this? You understand me? We pay y'all, right? So therefore, they putting pressure on them and they telling them at least slow this down or crush it until that we can control it. So I just want to say that piece before I say anything about DAOs, because a DAO essentially is a, community-owned business. So it's not owned by a corporation, but it's owned by the users. So Decentraland is a DAO. So Decentraland is a DAO. So essentially you create a software. Let's say they create a virtual land. The virtual land has a smart contract. Let's say that 10% of all of the revenue goes to whoever created it, right? And 90% just goes right back onto the platform. Now, let's say if I buy land on that, I now am a stakeholder of Decentraland. I can buy into the token, I can buy land, but that gives me now voting rights. These voting rights says that now we get to vote on protocols that we want to have with Decentraland. So let's say if we want to make all the land free, we can go vote to say that this becomes a nonprofit and we want everything to be free, right? But that's going to happen by everybody that has a wallet that's connected to this token that is a part of the smart contract ecosystem, which is Decentraland. They are now able to vote. But if I buy $100 million in land, I may, or $100 million in tokens, I may have a higher voting percentage power, right? So my vote may mean a little more. But this is the idea. It's supposed to be a democratic system, right? Where these are not owned by companies. They're transparent. They're supposed to be immutable, right? And now DAOs are actually becoming one of the hottest places for people to work at, because people are getting paid $200,000-$300,000 to be community developers, community managers in these DAOs. So another example is they have friends with benefits, which is a social token, right? So they throw events, they throw parties, and they vote on the type of events, the type of parties, and type of engagements that they want to have. They have a treasury. The treasury is only getting allocated. Those funds only move if everybody who's connected to this DAO votes and said, this is what we want to have happen. The SEC is going after Bored Ape Yacht Club right now, right? They started an investigation into them. Bored Ape Yacht Club has their own DAO. So when you look at their token only moves based on what the holders of that token want to have happen. So the owners that created it, or the developers, I should say, that created it, said that they wanted to create their own ape blockchain. What they didn't realize inside that ecosystem was the opinion of all of the investors. All of the investors was more so, heavy on Ethereum, right? So they loved Ethereum. So they said, no, we don't want to create our own blockchain. Let's just build it on Ethereum. That was against the wishes of the developers, but because all of the investors have a say-so, because it's not owned by one person, now everybody gets to participate in the future of this DAO. So that ensures as well that things can't, you can't scam nobody. It can't go against the people. You can't steal from the people. You can't just take out the treasury when you want to. But there's so many ways to use DAOs that it's more so about just looking at it and saying that, okay, how could this fit in my business model? How could Earn Your Leisure be a DAO? Let's say if Market Mondays had a DAO, and it wasn't about controlling Market Mondays, it was about having an opinion in it. So there's a social token. Everybody gonna buy into the DAO, right? Let's say that they gotta buy a token, or they buy NFT, right? Or a point, right? So they go and buy votes. Let's say they call it a vote. And they say, okay, every week we will vote on what we want y'all to talk about on Monday. Saturday, the vote comes in, right? And Sunday, y'all get the results, and then Monday, y'all talk about whatever the people said that they wanted to hear. Now, what this creates is you're directly speaking to the value and the needs of that community. And I'm saying this because I was thinking about creating a high-level DAO where y'all can help vote on topics, help vote on guests, where y'all want to see things go, and then they can actually put money into the treasury to actually help me build it out. So if I say, yo, I want to do a movie and I want this movie to be like this, and I submit the script to everybody that's inside the DAO, and I say, well, y'all also can participate in the profits of the movie that will be automatically allocated, right? Because y'all can participate in the royalties of that movie and the profits. People will be like, okay, I don't like this script. That don't look like it's going to do anything, but I like this one. So everybody put up $100, right? And you got 10,000 people inside that DAO. Now these communities are bringing ideas together. The same thing can be added into politics. It can be added into any industry across the planet. But I like the idea of DAOs. I don't like the way SEC is going after everything blockchain. So we'll have to wait to see how everything develops.
This that Red Panda Anthem. Ian, what's up? This that Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good? Red Panda Anthem. Your boy going up. I know they can't stand it.